If this is a video that you feel like other people should see, or you felt like it's worth sharing or posting or sending to them, please do so. Okay, the reason why I decided to make this video was because, I heard someone say this, and I heard this, what I'm about to bring up, get discussed. I heard someone make a case that as far as single parent homes in the black community, it sounded like this person was making a case that it's more women being out of control sexually that's causing this to happen versus men being out of control sexually that's causing it to happen. This is what I will say, right? This is what he said, at least. He said that it's a small percentage of black men that's going around just having sex willy-nilly, impregnating women. And it's multiple women that's going around getting impregnated by these, a smaller percentage of black men. And he was making the case that it's not, just like widespread amongst black men. That's a small segment of black men versus a large segment of a much larger segment, or a larger segment of black women who's getting pregnant by this smaller percentage. So it's making the black man, it's painting a bad picture on the black man, when in actuality, most black men are not doing this. And it's women who sleeping with these same men that's more responsible for these single parent households. It sounds like that's what he was saying, right? Now let's talk some numbers in relation to this, right? Because when you pull up numbers, and I've seen people put up different numbers, I pulled up different numbers, and I'm gonna tell y'all what I think about this. It said that from the ages of, I believe it was the age range of 15 to 49, about 60% of black women have at least one child. And in that same age range, about 47% of black men have kids. But this is the thing that I think that people are not taking in account when they sizing up just these raw numbers and saying that, well, you see, you have more black women who have kids in that age gap of at least 60 to 61% of women is like 48 to 47 for men. So you see these black women going around just having more kids. This is something that I think that I didn't hear nobody say, and somebody may have, but I didn't hear them, and it's being greatly overlooked, and it greatly affects the numbers that I just talked about. When it comes to judging how many women have kids in that age range, it's possible to be 100% accurate, because the woman got to literally have the kid. And if she literally have a kid, she had one. The thing about when trying to get this data and accurate when it comes to men, you can't always determine whether a man have a kid or not, right? Because look, you have situations where a man has to be the daddy because a man and a woman have to make a kid, but his name just may not be on the birth certificate for whatever reason. A woman, it can be multiple men. She don't know who it is, so she don't put nobody down as the father, right? She could know exactly who the father is, be on bad terms with him, mad that he wasn't there during the pregnancy, and say, you ain't want to be around, I'm not putting you down as the father. See, with a man, now you have like 47, 48% in that age range that is said to, have black men have at least one kid. You can't take into account the ones who are just not on the birth certificate, because he's not on the birth certificate. And when you pull up stuff like this, right? And when I started thinking about that, so, I researched what is the percentage of black babies born in America without the father's information being on the birth certificate. And this is what it said. It said roughly 30 to 35% of black infants in the United States have birth certificates where the biological father's information is missing, according to the regional and demographic public health data sets. The CDC was one of those data sets. Also, you have the National Center for Health Statistics. That was one of the data sets. So it's saying here 30 to 35% of black babies born in America have no information about, who the daddy is on the birth certificate. But, that's what it says. It doesn't have It's the certificates where the biological father's information is missing. That's what it's saying. So think about that. It says that 47, 48% of black men have at least one kid. But 30 to 35% of those 61% of women that have kids, the father's information is not on the birth certificate. So that would definitely, I mean, we gotta say that would definitely shrink that gap, or if not, may imbalance it to the where more men have kids if we were actually able to get an account of all those men who's not accounted for because their information is not on the birth certificate. Now, this is what I will say. Of course, every black kid that's born in America doesn't have a black daddy. Some women may have, been dealing with a man of another race and got pregnant by a man of another race. So of course, I'm not going to say all 30 to 35% automatically was a black daddy who's not, on the birth certificate. But this is also what I will say in relation to that. Typically, people do stuff in their proximity, right? People say this, for example, like people talk about something like black on black crime and say, well, you can say black on black crime, but it's basically you're more likely to do a crime against somebody that's in your proximity, whether you're white, black, this or that, that's or so. Would the same thing apply to dating? You're probably going to date someone who's in your proximity, right? You go to the same school, you go to the supermarket, the people that you see, the people in the community, right? And if you're living around predominantly black people, you're interacting with predominantly black people, you're probably more likely to date them. So if that's the case, there may, and I'm not saying factually, but if you're going off the proximity rule, most of that 30 to 35% will probably be black fathers dealing with black women, going off the rule of proximity, And look, this is not something we need to have no type of contest about, a finger pointing competition or nothing like that. A man or a woman, black man or black woman, whatever race, man, woman, but we talking about black men and women in broken homes and, single parent and stuff like that, right? Yeah, we don't need to have no finger pointing contest or no bitter contest. But basically, people just need to be responsible sexually. People need to, and I'm gonna say it here. I said it, and you probably heard this said in other videos, and you probably hear me end up saying it again, right? When you approach people in that type of way, relationship building should be at the forefront, not sex. Or not seeing if I can get some money from him or get some money from her or nothing like that, right? You need to be intentional, and I'm gonna keep saying it, with your romance and your sex drive, whether you're a man or a woman, right? That's what this boils down to. You need to be thinking about family building, right? So this finger pointing game and these statistics and measuring this and saying you moving spot, it cannot exist if we be intentional with the sex drive and with romance to build families and create homes that are not single parent and broken, that help cause a lot of other problems in the black community, because it starts at the home. I'm gonna keep saying that. I said it before. I plan to keep saying it, and it's definitely worth bringing up whenever it needs to be brought up, in my opinion. So let's not play the blame game, finger point, kind of like have these conversations that's immersed in like your dealings that you had with a man or a woman, and you might have had some hardships and you might have some scars, or you might be venting through your pain and letting that shape how you view the conversation or whatever. This video isn't no type of attack or slight on black men, black women, any man, any woman, but I felt like that overlooked factor about the men not being on the birth certificate, and that can give an inaccurate account of exactly how many men are having kids or have at least one kid in between them age ranges. I think that needed to be, because this is an important conversation. I felt like something that of that magnitude that can affect how people's perspective about this subject, about this conversation, needed to be brought to people's attention. If this is a video that you feel like other people should see, or you felt like it's worth sharing or posting or sending to, please do so. Let any other videos that you see, spread it around, let it get around. These stuff, some of these things, I feel need to be heard, and if you feel the same way, post it and share it. See the invisible stuff.